I don't know when my hands started shaking again. Maybe it was when I entered the staff hallway and smelled disinfectant, the same sharp scent that clung to her clothes that morning. I tell myself I've moved on, that life has forgiven me, but the truth sits quietly in my chest, heavy like a stone that refuses to melt. Right now I'm standing by the window of my tiny apartment, watching people rush to walk beneath a pale sunrise. They all look innocent, untouched. I envy them. Because I know what it feels like to destroy something you didn't even understand. I know what it feels like to hurt someone who didn't deserve it. If I close my eyes for even 1 second, I see her again, bent back, trembling fingers, soft eyes that held stories I never cared to hear. And I see myself, loud, angry, full of pride I had not earned. Some grief doesn't scream. Some grief sits quietly beside you, like a shadow you cannot outrun. I wish I had paused. I wish I had looked at her face properly. I wish I had known that the woman I humiliated in front of everyone was the one my fiancé loved the most. And the one who would change everything. I slammed the office door so hard the glass rattled. I didn't care who heard. My heels struck the tiles like angry beats as I marched toward the conference room, breathing fast, my throat tight. All morning, nothing felt right, deadlines shifting, clients shouting, and Daniel, my fiancé, avoiding my calls again. I felt like the world was squeezing me. Then I saw her. The elderly cleaner, kneeling by the stairs, mopping a small spill like the ground depended on her. She moved slowly, her hands shaking. To me at that moment, she was just another reminder that everything around me was falling apart. I stepped too fast, my shoe slid, and water splashed onto my skirt. And I snapped. "Can't you watch what you're doing?" I shouted. "Do you think this place is your backyard? Must you always be in the way?" She froze. Her shoulders curled in. She whispered, "I'm sorry, my daughter." But I cut her off. "Don't, my daughter, me. Just move." Her eyes glistened, but she didn't speak again. I didn't know those eyes carried my future. I didn't know those trembling hands once held the boy I loved. Anger makes fools of us when we let pain speak louder than sense. Have you ever hurt someone because you were really fighting yourself? When my fiancé, Daniel, walked into the hallway with that worried crease on his forehead, I felt my heartbeat slam against my ribs. He said his aunt wanted to meet him privately, but the way he kept glancing at me made it clear he already sensed something was wrong. I tried to act busy, shuffling papers that no longer meant anything. When the office door finally opened, I caught a glimpse of her, the same elderly cleaner I had insulted. Her eyes didn't hold anger. That frightened me more. She whispered something to him, and he looked at me slowly, as if realizing he had never truly seen me before. I wanted to run. Instead, I stood frozen, pretending bravery I didn't feel. Insecurities rose suddenly inside me. What if he ended everything? What if one moment of pride destroyed years of love? Daniel called my name gently, too gently. That softness broke me. I knew the confrontation was coming, and I deserved it. But I didn't expect his aunt to step forward and ask, "My daughter, why did you speak to me like I wasn't human?" A single moment can reveal who we really are. What truth would surface if someone watched your unguarded moments? Her question echoed through the room, quiet but sharp enough to break something inside me. Why did you speak to me like I wasn't human? In that moment, I felt every wall I had built around my pride crumble. My throat tightened, and the words I tried to form stumbled out as broken whispers. I didn't have an answer, at least not one that could undo the hurt. The truth was simple. I had forgotten she was a person with a life beyond the mop in her hands. Daniel stood beside her, watching me, waiting. His silence was worse than anger. I could see disappointment settling on his face like a shadow. I opened my mouth to apologize, but the tears I had been swallowing finally pushed through. The room blurred as I lowered my eyes, ashamed of the woman I had been that morning. "I'm so sorry," I managed. My voice cracked, small and unsteady. I was stressed, but that doesn't excuse anything. "I shouldn't have spoken to you that way." She studied me for a long, heavy moment, long enough for fear to twist deep inside my stomach. Then she sighed softly, almost tiredly, and said, "Stress doesn't remove compassion, my child." Her words sank into me like the truth I had avoided for years. Pride hides our deepest flaws until someone holds up a mirror. When last did honesty humble you? I didn't expect her to sit down. I didn't expect her to pat the chair beside her either, as if inviting me into a space I didn't deserve. My legs felt stiff as I obeyed, lowering myself slowly. The office felt smaller, like the walls themselves were listening. She spoke first. "Do you know why I cleaned this place, my daughter?" I shook my head. Shame pressed heavily on my shoulders. I had never wondered. Never cared. She folded her hands gently. "I was a teacher for 28 years. But life can turn on you without warning. My husband died. My son got sick. Bills swallowed everything. I took whatever job could keep us alive." Her voice didn't wobble. "But mine did." "You were a teacher?" I whispered, my chest tightening painfully. "Yes," she replied. "And I loved my students. I cleaned after them too, but they respected me." She paused, looking at me with eyes that carried years of unspoken battles. Sometimes, kindness is the only honor a person still has. Her story pierced me. I thought of my own mother working long hours at the market, enduring insults just to keep food on our table. How had I forgotten where I came from? Daniel finally spoke. His tone was low. "This is why today hurts her deeply. Everyone carries a story you cannot see. If you knew someone's hidden struggles, would it change the way you treat them?" Daniel's silence felt heavier than anything his aunt had said. He stood near the window, arms crossed, his jaw tight. I kept stealing glances at him, hoping for a sign, anything, that meant he still saw me the way he used to. But his eyes stayed distant, searching for a version of me he wasn't sure existed anymore. His aunt touched his arm gently. "Talk to her," she whispered. "Anger without guidance only destroys." He nodded slowly, then turned to me. "Why, Kamsi? Why speak that way to anyone?" His voice wasn't loud. That made it worse. Quiet disappointment cuts deeper than shouting ever could. I opened my mouth, but the truth tangled inside me in fear, stress, insecurity, childhood wounds I never addressed. I don't know," I said weakly. Maybe I thought being strong meant being loud. Maybe I learned pride the wrong way. He studied me with a softness that felt like grief. "Strength is not loudness," he said. "My mother cleaned offices like this for years. If someone spoke to her the way you spoke today," his voice trailed off, heavy with pain he didn't need to finish. My heart cracked open. I suddenly saw how my actions touch wounds beyond my own. Our actions echo into places we cannot see. Do your words heal, or do they reopen old hurts? I thought apologizing would make everything lighter, but the room only grew heavier. There are moments in life when "I'm sorry" feels too small to hold the damage we've caused. This was one of them. My chest tightened as I looked at both of them, feeling like I was standing outside my own life, watching it crumble. Daniel's aunt spoke softly, but her words carried weight. "An apology is a beginning, not a cure." She wasn't angry, just hurt. And somehow, that made my guilt sharper. "I want to do better," I whispered. "I want to unlearn whatever made me speak that way." She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. Trust isn't restored with promises, it grows slowly, like seedlings after a storm. Daniel exhaled deeply and finally came closer. I love you, he said quietly, but today shook me. I need to understand who you are when no one is watching. His words stabbed gently, truthfully. Who was I when life pressed me? Who had I allowed myself to become? A sudden knock interrupted us. The HR manager poked her head in, eyes wide. Come see, we need to talk about this morning. My heart dropped. Another consequence. Another mirror I wasn't ready to face. Real growth begins when excuses fall away. When confronted with your flaws, do you defend them or confront them? Walking into the HR office felt like stepping into a courtroom where I was both the witness and the accused. The walls were too bright, the air too still. I sat down slowly, trying not to let my shaking hands show. The manager closed the door behind me and folded her arms with a seriousness that made my stomach twist. Come see, she began, I received a report this morning. Not just from a staff member, but from a client who overheard you shouting at our cleaner. A client. My pulse stumbled. I didn't even realize anyone else had witnessed it. She slid a complaint form across the desk. This could affect your record. It might affect your contract renewal. My throat dried instantly. I had worked for years to build stability, late nights, overtime, sacrifices. And now, because of one moment of careless pride, everything was slipping. I understand, I whispered. I lost control. I'm willing to face whatever comes. HR studied me in silence, her eyes softening slightly. People make mistakes, Kamsi. But we judge them by what they do afterward. Her words lingered as I walked out. I felt exposed, stripped of every excuse. But beneath the fear, something else stirred, an unfamiliar courage to face the truth of myself. Accountability is painful, but it is the doorway to transformation. When life forces you to confront yourself, do you walk through or turn away? That evening, the office felt emptier than usual. Desks gleamed under artificial lights, but the hum of computers sounded distant, almost hollow. I stayed at my desk, staring at my hands, wondering how one careless moment had shaken everything I had built. The guilt was heavy, pressing into my chest like wet clay. Daniel's aunt had left hours ago, her quiet dignity still lingering in the hallways. Every step she took reminded me that true strength isn't loud or flashy, it is silent, patient, and relentless. I shivered, imagining how I had reduced someone so admirable to hurt and shock, all because of my own impatience and ego. I tried to focus on the files before me, but each page blurred into a reflection of my shame. The office phone rang, breaking the stillness. I ignored it. I wasn't ready to talk, not to anyone. Finally, Daniel appeared, leaning against the doorway. His face was calm, but his eyes carried a storm of emotion. Kamsi, he said softly, you don't need to fix the past. But you must learn from it, before it defines you. I nodded, swallowing hard, realizing that forgiveness and growth were two very different paths, and both demanded courage I wasn't sure I had. Reflection comes quietly, but its lessons can reshape a life. Will you confront your missteps before they define you? The next morning, the office felt colder than usual. Even the sunlight through the windows couldn't warm the pit of dread in my stomach. I had spent the night replaying the incident, every word I'd said to her, every gesture that betrayed my impatience. The cleaner's face haunted me, not angry, just painfully hurt. I stepped into the break room, hoping to avoid anyone, but Daniel's aunt was already there, quietly pouring tea. She looked up at me, and for a moment, I expected silence, maybe even condemnation. Instead, she offered me a small, cautious smile. Sit, she said. Tea helps, even when words cannot. I froze, then slowly lowered myself onto the chair across from her. The aroma of brewed leaves filled the space, yet the tension was tangible. I've seen young people make mistakes, she began, her voice gentle but firm. It is how you respond that shows your true character. Apologies are the first step, but change is the path you must walk daily. Her words cut through my shame like sunlight through fog. I realized that growth wasn't instant, it was earned through humility, patience, and endurance. Daniel appeared at the door, watching silently, as if giving me permission to begin learning. True respect and growth are forged in patience and humility. Are you ready to learn from those you've wronged? Days passed, but the weight of my pride refused to lift. I walked the office halls like a shadow, avoiding everyone, especially her. Every time I caught a glimpse of her quiet presence, I felt my heart twist, a mix of guilt and shame I couldn't shake. Daniel noticed it immediately. One afternoon, he stopped me in the hallway, his eyes sharp yet tender. "Come see, you're carrying it all alone," he said. "You think hiding from your mistakes makes them disappear. But it only buries them deeper." I looked away, my throat tight. I don't know if I deserve to fix it," I admitted. He shook his head. "No one grows without admitting what they've broken." Later, I found myself outside the cleaning supply closet, gathering courage. She was organizing mops and buckets, her movement steady, almost graceful. My voice shook when I spoke. I want to apologize. Truly." She turned slowly, and for a heartbeat, I feared the worst. But her eyes softened, reflecting not mockery or anger, but an openness I hadn't expected. "You have to mean it," she said simply. "Words without action are empty. Actions rebuild what words destroy." Her words sank in. I knew the road ahead would be long. Pride can blind us to the harm we cause, humility paves the path to redemption. Will you face your mistakes before they define you forever? I spent that night wide awake, the apology rehearsing endlessly in my mind. What if she rejected it? What if my words made things worse? Fear twisted in my chest like a living thing. But I couldn't stay silent any longer. The next morning, I waited until the office was quiet. She was arranging cleaning supplies, humming softly, a sound I never thought I'd notice. My hands trembled as I stepped forward. I started, then stopped. "I owe you more than words," I whispered. "I was cruel, impatient, and blind. I am sorry, truly." She didn't speak at first. I braced for rejection, for cold silence, or even anger. But she looked at me with calm, unwavering eyes. "Actions speak louder than words," she said softly. "If you are sincere, show it. Help, don't just apologize." Her response hit me like a bucket of cold water. This wasn't about pride, it was about respect and care. I realized for the first time that my arrogance had blinded me to her humanity, her patience, her sacrifices. That day, I stayed after hours, helping her clean the break room. With each task, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, replaced by something new of understanding, humility, and hope. True redemption begins when words are paired with sincere actions. Are your apologies backed by deeds, or left floating in emptiness? The days that followed were quiet, almost painfully so. I could feel the distance between us, even though I tried to close it with gestures and small acts of help. Every time I handed her a mop or carried a bucket, I felt her eyes measuring me, questioning whether my change was real. Daniel noticed my nervousness. One evening, as we walked out together, he said, "Come see, trust is fragile. You broke it once. Every action now is a brick toward rebuilding it, or letting it crumble." His words lingered in my mind like a bell. I understood then that this wasn't just about me or my guilt, it was about proving that I could be better, that I could honor her patience and dignity. At the office, I continued to shadow her quietly, learning her routines, listening to her stories about the years she had walked and the struggles she endured. I began to see the world through her eyes, a world where courage was silent endurance, where humility carried more weight than titles or wealth. One afternoon, she paused and looked at me. "I see effort," she said. "Change is never instant. But it starts with the heart willing to try. Trust cannot be demanded, it must be patiently earned through consistent humility. Are you willing to walk the long road to earn someone's trust again?" It was late when I finally stayed behind after everyone left. The office was empty, but she was still there, wiping floors with the same careful hands I had once mocked. Watching her move, I began to notice the silent strength etched in every line of her face, the patience hidden behind her calm eyes. I hesitated, then asked softly, "Have you always been like this? Quietly enduring?" She paused, looking at me with a faint smile. "Life doesn't give you much choice," she said. "Some of us bear burdens so others may rise. You don't see it because you've always been focused on yourself." Her words cut deeper than any anger I'd faced before. I realized how blind I had been, how little I understood about sacrifice and perseverance. I want to learn," I whispered. "Teach me." For the first time, she nodded, not with condescension, but with cautious trust. She told me stories of her youth, of nights spent walking while her own dreams slept quietly in corners, of how she had held herself together so others could flourish. I listened, feeling a mix of shame and admiration. Her life was a lesson, one I had been too proud to learn until now. True greatness often lives in unnoticed sacrifices. Whose silent strength have you overlooked in your life? A week later, the office buzzed with excitement. Our company was hosting a high-profile client, and I was tasked with helping prepare the conference room. I followed her quietly, trying to anticipate what she needed, hoping my efforts would finally show that I had changed. Then it happened. A tray of glasses slipped from her hands, tumbling toward the polished floor. Without thinking, I lunged, catching most of them, but one shattered anyway. My heart sank, remembering the past, the sting of arrogance, and the words I had spoken too quickly. She sighed softly, not angry, just weary. "It's okay," she said, gathering the pieces with grace. "Accidents happen." At that moment, I noticed something I had never realized before, the depth of her patience, the quiet authority that required no shouting, no anger. I swallowed hard. I need to tell you something," I said, my voice trembling. "I didn't know at first. I thought you were just a cleaner. But now I see, you're not just anyone. You're family, in every sense that matters." Her eyes widened slightly. I saw the flicker of recognition, and I realized the truth I had been blind to: humility and respect were not just lessons, they were legacies she carried. True respect recognizes the worth in everyone, even when appearances deceive. Do you see the family hidden in unexpected places? The day of the company gala arrived, glittering and grand, filled with executives and clients dressed in tailored suits and sparkling dresses. I walked beside her, nervous, aware of the invisible barrier between us, the memory of my past arrogance still fresh in my mind. As we approached the main hall, a waiter carrying a tray of champagne misstopped, spilling liquid across the pristine floor. I froze, panic rising, but she moved with calm precision, steadying the glasses with her hands. A ripple of whispers ran through the crowd, but she didn't flinch. Her composure stunned me, grace born from years of silent endurance. I stepped closer, my voice barely above a whisper. "I've learned something important," I said. "All this wealth, all this status. It means nothing without humility, without respect. And I owe you the deepest apology for my words before." Her gaze met mine, soft but piercing, and for a moment, the noise of the gala faded. She nodded slowly. "Actions matter more than words. Show me that you've truly changed." That night, as I stood beside her, helping, learning, and observing, I understood a truth I would carry forever: respect is earned, not assumed, and sometimes the smallest acts reveal the largest hearts. Grace under pressure shows true strength, not power or status. When was the last time you let humility guide your actions? The wedding day arrived, glittering and radiant. I stood behind the scenes, my heart pounding, observing the elegant chaos. She moved quietly, unnoticed by most, arranging flowers, straightening napkins, making sure everything was perfect. I followed her, ready to help, but careful not to overstep. Then it happened. A tray tipped, spilling a few droplets onto the bride's immaculate gown. The air froze. I saw the fury ignite in the young woman's eyes, and before I could intervene, she struck, her hand landing on the cheek of the one I had come to respect and admire. Time seemed to stop. The sound echoed through the hall. The bride's face twisted in anger, words of contempt spilling out, calling her names that made my stomach churn. I rushed forward, my chest tight with horror. "Do you know who she is?" I shouted, disbelief cracking my voice. The hall erupted in whispers. Shock, confusion, and judgment swirled around us. The woman I had once mocked, now struck, stood with quiet dignity, hiding her pain behind a faint smile. I grabbed her hand, holding it as if to shield her from the world's cruelty. At that moment, I knew, some lessons cannot be taught, they must be felt. True respect cannot be ignored, and the consequences of arrogance are immediate. Would you recognize greatness if it wore humility instead of glitter? After the slap, the room felt frozen, the air thick with tension. I guided her gently to a quiet corner, away from the flashing cameras and murmuring guests. Her hand trembled, the mark on her cheek burning, yet her eyes held no anger toward me, no anger toward the world, only quiet endurance. I turned to the bride, who now seemed small and fragile, her arrogance stripped away. "Respect isn't earned by status," I said firmly, voice shaking. "It's given to those who stand quietly, who sacrifice, who endure with grace." The bride fell silent, tears brimming, realizing the depth of her mistake. She knelt, begging forgiveness, but she didn't yet understand the true power in the woman before her. The elderly woman looked at her, then at me. Slowly, deliberately, she reached out, lifting the bride's chin. "You may have acted wrongly, but you can still choose to learn," she said softly. At that moment, I understood, forgiveness is strength. Humility is power. And love, patient and unwavering, can heal wounds no wealth can cover. We walked out together, the city lights reflecting in our calm eyes. I knew life had taught me its hardest lesson, and it was one I would never forget. Forgiveness frees the heart, and respect honors the soul. Who in your life deserves your forgiveness today? As the lights of the city glimmered beneath us, we walked together, hand in hand, carrying the quiet strength of those who gave everything without asking for anything in return. Today, we remember that true greatness lives not in wealth or power, but in humility, sacrifice, and the courage to forgive. Every act of kindness, every gesture of respect, echoes far beyond what we see. Take a moment to honor those who shaped your life and never forget, the heart that gives without expectation is the heart that changes the world. Who in your life deserves your gratitude or forgiveness today? The end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Hit the notification bell to stay updated. And check out our playlist for more. Your support means everything to us.